My name is Ali Raza. I was a police officer, and unlike most, I truly believed in justice. People often say, all cops are the same, corrupt, greedy, and heartless. But I wasn't like that. Ever since I was a child, I dreamed of wearing the uniform. I thought if I joined the police, I could make a difference. I could fight for people who had no one else to protect them. But maybe that dream was my biggest mistake, because honesty in the system is dangerous. I worked as a station house officer in a small town. My life revolved around the police station. Morning, evening, and night, duty always came first. My family would complain, "Ollie, you live only for work. You never rest. This job will eat you alive." But I didn't care. To me, the uniform wasn't just cloth stitched together. It was a promise to fight crime, protect the weak, and never bend to corruption. And that's where my trouble began, because a man who doesn't compromise becomes an enemy of the system. One day, I received confidential information. A drug mafia was operating in the city. They were poisoning young students, pushing narcotics into schools and colleges. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those kids. Innocent lives being destroyed while the mafia filled their pockets. I made a decision. I will take them down, no matter what it cost me. Within weeks, I launched small raids. We caught dealers, seized drugs, and slowly climbed the ladder of a network. Every arrest brought us closer to the mafia's core. But soon my fight caught someone else's attention. Someone I didn't expect. My direct senior was DSP Cameron Malik. Outwardly, he was respected, well-dressed, polished, always giving big speeches about law and order. But behind the curtain, he was rotten. I discovered the mafia wasn't just thriving by chance. They had protection from within the police itself. And the man shielding them was none other than DSP Cameron. At first, I didn't want to believe it. A senior officer, a guardian of the law, involved with criminals? But soon, the truth slapped me in the face. One night during an undercover raid, we almost caught a huge consignment of drugs. At the very last moment, the mafia was tipped off. They vanished minutes before we arrived. Who else could have warned them, except someone powerful inside? That was the night I realized the enemy wasn't just the mafia. The enemy was wearing the same uniform as me. The next day, DSP Cameron called me to his office. He smiled, but his eyes were sharp. "Ali Raza," he said, "you're young, passionate, and honest, but honesty doesn't pay bills. Don't dig into matters bigger than you. Focus on your routine cases. Leave the mafia alone." His words were clear. Stop or face the consequences. But I wasn't the type to bow down. I told him straight, "Sir, I didn't join the force to close my eyes to crime. If I stop, who will protect our people? Who will save the children from this poison?" He just smirked and said one sentence that still echoes in my head. "Then be ready to pay the price for your heroism." From that moment, my nightmare began. Strange rumors started spreading about me. Some said I was taking bribes from local dealers. Others claimed I was secretly working with the mafia. At first, I laughed it off. I thought, truth always wins. But then the trap was set. During a raid, a man was killed in crossfire. My team reported it as a genuine encounter. But by the next morning, media headlines screamed, "Inspector Ali Raza involved in fake encounter, accused of killing innocent man." I was shocked. I knew it was a setup. And when I checked the files, I realized the dead civilian was actually one of the mafia's men, the same one I had been tracking for months. They erased his criminal record overnight. Now, I look like the murderer. And the mastermind behind all of this? DSP Cameron. Within a week, everything I had built crumbled. Internal Affairs launched an investigation. I was suspended from duty. Neighbors whispered behind my back. Some even spat as I passed by. My mother cried every night, saying, "My son can't be corrupt. He's innocent. Why is this happening?" But no one listened. The same uniform that once made people salute me now became a mark of shame. On the day of suspension, I stood outside the station one last time. I stared at the building where I'd spent countless nights fighting for justice. Now, I was nothing but a disgraced officer. But deep inside, a fire burned. I whispered to myself, if the system wants to bury me, fine. But I will use this very system to destroy those who betrayed me. Cameron, you thought you ended me, but this is only the beginning. And that was the moment my revenge began. Ali Raza, once a respected police officer, is now disgraced and suspended. His enemies believe he's finished. But in reality, he has just started planning the downfall of the corrupt officer and the mafia. When I walked out of the police station that day, suspended, humiliated, and disgraced, I felt like my entire world had collapsed. For years, I had lived for that uniform. It wasn't just a job, it was my identity. And now, with one false report and a few forged files, they had taken away from me. People said, Ali Raza is finished. His career is over. But they were wrong. Because what DSP Cameron and his mafia allies didn't know was this: I don't give up. I fight back. I moved away from the city for a while. I rented a small room in a poor neighborhood where nobody recognized me. I grew a beard, dressed like a common laborer, and disappeared from everyone's eyes. But I wasn't hiding. I was planning. Every night, I sat with a small notebook and wrote down names, places, and events. I recalled every single case I had worked on, every dealer I had caught, every raid that had failed because someone tipped them off. A pattern started forming, and at the center of it was DSP Cameron. He wasn't just protecting the mafia. He was part of it. He was their shield, their partner, their silent investor. If I wanted revenge, I couldn't just confront him. No, I had exposed him so completely that the system he used to destroy me would crush him instead. The first rule of survival: never fight a snake without proof. I needed evidence. Hard, undeniable evidence. So I began from the bottom. I tracked small street pushers I had once arrested. Some had been released suspiciously quickly. Others had vanished. One night, disguised as a mechanic, I followed a mid-level dealer named Javid. He drove to a warehouse on the edge of the city. I watched in the shadows as a truck unloaded boxes. I managed to sneak close enough to hear. They weren't just drugs. They were weapons, too. The mafia wasn't only destroying children with narcotics. They were arming criminals. I recorded everything on a hidden camera. And when I zoomed in on the men guarding the warehouse, my blood boiled. 2 of them were wearing police uniforms. Cameron's men. While investigating, I met an old friend, Inspector Farouk, one of the few honest officers left. He found me one night, sitting in a tea shop disguised. He leaned forward and whispered, "Ali, you're not safe. They think you'll stay quiet. But if they even suspect you're planning something, they'll kill you." I looked in the eyes and said, "Farouk, I don't care about my life anymore. I only care about exposing Cameron. But I can't do it alone. Will you help me?" Farouk hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Always. From that night, I wasn't alone. With Farouk's help, we dug deeper. We hacked into files, traced bank accounts, followed suspicious cash transfers. And the deeper we went, the darker it became. Cameron was not just taking bribes. He was the mafia's financial brain. He laundered their money, erased their crimes from police records, and used his position to silence anyone who stood against him. But how could I prove it? His face never appeared directly in any deal. He was too smart for that. That's when I realized, if I couldn't catch him from the outside, I had to go inside. It was dangerous. It was insane. But it was the only way. Through an old contact, I managed to introduce myself to the mafia under a new identity. Aslam, a former cop turned smuggler who had been fired for corruption. The irony made me laugh. They thought I was dirty. And that's exactly the mask I wore. At first, they didn't trust me. They tested me with small jobs, delivering packages, collecting money. I played the role perfectly. Silent, obedient, ruthless when needed. Slowly, they began to let me in. And then the moment came. One night, in a heavily guarded farmhouse, I overheard something that made my heart race. The mafia was planning their biggest drug shipment ever, worth millions of dollars. The deal would happen in just a few weeks. And guess who would personally ensure its safety? DSP Cameron himself. This was it. This was the trap I needed. If I could record Cameron directly dealing with the mafia, If I could capture his voice, his face, his involvement, I could destroy him forever. But there was one problem. The Mafia had a rule: no one outside the inner circle was allowed near such deals. And I was still on probation with them. So I had to gamble with my life. I convinced them I had contacts in shipping companies, that I could make sure containers passed smoothly through checkpoints. It was a lie, but it impressed them. Cameron himself approved my presence at the deal. But from that moment, my life hung by a thread. One wrong move, one wrong word, one suspicious look, and they would kill me on the spot. I contacted Farouk secretly. Together, we prepared. I bought tiny hidden cameras, wired microphones into my clothes, and tested recording devices that could transmit live signals in case they searched me. Every second felt like walking into fire, but my determination was stronger than my fear. The night before the deal, I stood in front of a mirror, looking at my reflection. I barely recognized myself anymore. The uniform was gone, my beard had grown, my eyes were darker, filled with rage. But deep inside, one thing hadn't changed: my promise to myself to fight for justice. I whispered, "Cameron, tomorrow I will begin your downfall." The night of the deal arrived. Trucks loaded with drugs rolled into a hidden warehouse. Armed men surrounded the area. And in the middle of it all, wearing his polished uniform and smiling confidently, was DSP Cameron Malik. And me? I was standing right there among them, disguised as one of their own, with a tiny camera hidden in my shirt, recording every single moment. If they discovered me, I'd be a dead man. But if I succeeded, Cameron's empire, Ali is now undercover inside the Mafia's biggest deal, recording evidence against DSP Cameron. But he's surrounded by killers who will execute him instantly if they discover his true identity. The night of the big deal had finally arrived. The warehouse was buzzing with activity. Trucks rolled in, loaded with crates stacked high. Armed guards patrolled the area. The air smelled of diesel and fear. And right at the center of it all stood DSP Cameron Malik. His uniform was spotless, his boots polished, his face calm and confident. To everyone else, he was a law. But to me, standing just a few feet away in disguise, he was nothing more than a criminal hiding behind a badge. My heart pounded as I pressed the tiny button on my hidden mic. The recorder was live. Every word, every movement, every face, all of it was being captured. Cameron walked around the warehouse like a king, inspecting his empire. Dealers greeted him with respect, bowing their heads. One of them laughed. "Sir, without you, this shipment would never make it out of the city." Cameron smirked. "That's why you pay me. The police isn't your enemy, gentlemen. The police is your insurance." Hearing those words broke something inside me. The very oath we swore to protect people, he had twisted into a tool for criminals. But it also gave me what I needed: his voice, a confession, captured forever. As the deal went on, I moved carefully, pretending to check crates. My tiny camera caught footage of the drugs, the weapons, the Mafia leaders, and most importantly, Cameron standing among them. But suddenly one of the guards stopped me. "Hey, you new guy," he shouted. My blood froze. He pointed at the bulge in my shirt pocket, where the transmitter was hidden. "What's that?" he barked. For a moment, my world went silent. One wrong answer, and I'd be dead. I forced a smile and pulled out a cigarette pack from the same pocket, covering the device with my hand. "Relax, brother. Just smokes. You want one?" The guard eyed me for a moment, then grabbed one and lit it. He laughed, patted my shoulder. "You're all right." I exhaled slowly. That was too close. Hours passed. The shipment was prepared for transport. I realized this wasn't just a drug deal. It was an entire operation: drugs, weapons, money laundering, political connections. And Cameron was the mastermind holding it all together. If the shipment succeeded, their empire would grow unstoppable. But if I could take them down tonight, everything could collapse. The only problem: I was alone inside, surrounded by killers. I managed to slip into a corner and whisper into the mic, "Farouk, are you getting this? Are you recording?" His voice crackled back faintly. "Yes, Ali. We're outside. We've got the live feed. But if we raid now, we'll be outnumbered." I clenched my fists. "Don't raid yet. Let me get Cameron's face in the deal. Once I have that, then move. It was risky, but I needed undeniable proof. Cameron directly handling the transaction. Finally, the moment arrived. Stacks of cash were brought in. Suitcases full of dollars, exchanged for crates of drugs. Cameron himself stepped forward, counted a bundle, and nodded. I leaned closer, my camera catching every detail. My hands were shaking, but I held steady. Cameron spoke. "Gentlemen, tonight marks the beginning of a new era. With this deal, our network expands across borders. No one can touch us now." That was it. The words I needed. The final nail in his coffin. Just as I turned to leave quietly, ready to signal Farouk, a hand grabbed my collar. I froze. One of the senior mafia guards stared at me with narrowed eyes. "Wait a second. I've seen you before." My blood ran cold. He leaned closer, his eyes studying my face. "You're not Aslam the smuggler. You're your Ali Raza, the cop." Before I could react, he punched me hard in the stomach. The crowd turned. Cameron's eyes widened, then twisted into a cruel smile. Well, look who decided to join the party," he sneered. "The famous honest officer. I thought I buried you already." Within seconds, I was surrounded, guns pressed against my head. They ripped the camera from my shirt and smashed it to the ground. Cameron walked up slowly, clapping sarcastically. "You almost had me, Ali. Almost. But you see, rats like you always get caught." He ordered his men, "Take him. We'll deal with him later." I was dragged, beaten, and thrown into a dark room at the back of the warehouse. My hands were tied, blood dripping from my mouth. Through the wall, I could still hear trucks starting their engines, preparing to move the shipment. I knew if they succeeded, everything I had done would be for nothing. In that moment of despair, I remembered something. The transmitter in my shoe. They hadn't found it. With all my strength, I tapped my foot against the floor 3 times, the prearranged signal. Farouk would understand. At least, I prayed he would. Outside, trucks rolled away into the night, carrying millions worth of drugs. Inside, I was tied up, my cover blown, and DSP Cameron ready to finish me once and for all. But somewhere out there, my only ally Farouk was listening. The question was, would he act in time? Ali has been exposed, beaten, and captured by the mafia. Cameron has won this round. But Ali secretly sent a signal to Farouk. Will his ally reach in time, or will the mafia erase him forever? The room was dark. My hands were tied, blood dripped from my forehead, and every breath felt heavy. The mafia guards had beaten me badly, but the real pain wasn't the bruises. It was the sound outside, truck engines roaring one after another, carrying away drugs worth millions. If those trucks left the city, Cameron's empire would only grow stronger. My mission, my sacrifice, everything would mean nothing. But I still had one hope. Farouk, my ally, the man who had been listening on the other end of my transmitter. I had tapped my shoe against the ground, sending him the desperate signal. Now all I could do was pray that he had understood and that he had the courage to act. The door creaked open. Cameron walked in, his uniform shining under dim light. He looked at me like a hunter staring at his prey. "Ali Raza," he said calmly, "you could have lived a peaceful life. I warned you. I told you to stay out of my business. But no, you wanted to play the hero." I spat blood onto the floor. "You're not a police officer, Cameron. You're just another criminal in uniform. And one day, this uniform will choke you." He laughed, shaking his head. Still brave, even at the end. I almost admire that. Then his face hardened. But bravery doesn't save lives. Power does. And tonight, power belongs to me. He ordered the guards, "Take him to the river. End him quietly. No body, no evidence." The guards dragged me out, shoving me toward a waiting jeep. My hands were bound, my vision blurry. I thought this was it. But then happened. The night sky suddenly lit up with flashing red and blue lights. Police sirens echoed through the warehouse district. And then, boom! The main gate exploded open. Dozens of police vans stormed in. Officers in bulletproof vests poured out, guns raised, shouting commands. At their front was Inspector Farouk, Leading the charge, the guards panicked. Chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked through the night. Trucks screeched to a halt as drivers abandoned them. Cameron's confident smile vanished. I felt a surge of relief. My signal had worked. Farouk hadn't abandoned me. He had brought the fight straight to them. The warehouse turned into a battlefield. Bullets flew in every direction. Mafia men scrambled for cover, but they weren't prepared for this kind of raid. Farouk's team moved like a storm, surrounding the compound. In the chaos, one of the guards holding me was distracted. With all my strength, I lunged, knocking him off balance. I grabbed his knife, cut my ropes, and punched him to the ground. For the first time that night, my hands were free. I picked up a fallen pistol, adrenaline rushing through me. I was weak, bleeding, but I was ready. This was my moment. Amid the smoke and gunfire, I saw Cameron trying to escape toward a black SUV. He shouted orders, firing blindly at officers desperate to run. I chased him. My legs felt like fire, but rage pushed me forward. Finally, I cornered him near the back gate. He raised his gun at me. I raised mine at him. For a moment, time froze. Two men in the same uniform, one fighting for justice, the other drowning in corruption. Cameron sneered, "You think this changes anything, Ali? The system is mine. Even if you kill me, there are 100 more like me waiting to take my place." I steadied my aim. "Maybe, but tonight it ends with you." We both pulled the trigger. Bang! My shot hit his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. His gun clattered away. I walked up slowly, standing over him as he bled, clutching his wound. Farouk and his team rushed over, arresting the remaining mafia men. Crates of drugs and weapons were seized. Cameras recorded everything, and the live broadcast made headlines across the country. The proof was undeniable. Cameron was caught red-handed. As they handcuffed him, I leaned closer and whispered, "You used the system to destroy me. But tonight, I used the same system to bury you." His eyes burned with hatred, but he couldn't speak. The once powerful DSP Cameron Malik was nothing more than a fallen criminal. Days later, the news exploded. DSP exposed as mafia leader, arrested in massive raid. Hero Officer Ali Raza cleared of all charges. The same people who once called me corrupt now saluted me with respect. The uniform that had been stained with shame was returned to me with honor. But for me, the victory wasn't about fame. It was about one simple thing: justice. Standing in front of the police station once again, wearing my uniform, I addressed the younger officers. "Remember this," I said, my voice steady. "Our duty is not to power, not to money, not even to our seniors. Our duty is to the people. The moment we forget that, we become the criminals we swore to fight." I paused, looking at the flag fluttering above. The system is dirty, but every honest officer is a spark of hope. And as long as we exist, corruption will never truly win. That night, I sat alone in my office, staring at my badge. It felt heavier than before, not because of the medal, but because of the responsibility. I whispered to myself, the uniform survived, but the fight to clean the system is far from over. And deep down, I knew my war had only just begun. Ali Raza rises from betrayal, destroys Cameron with undeniable proof, and restores his honor. But instead of celebrating, he realizes his true battle has only started, fighting corruption itself.